Welcome back to Grifter or Gifted, the show where we dig into the lives and careers of some of the most fascinating and controversial figures of our time.
Yeah, we look at the people who are really shaking things up, making waves, and try to figure out what their deal is.
Right? Are they changing the world or just trying to line their own pockets?
Yeah.
Well, today we're going deep into the world of AI.
Oh, yeah, this is going to be a good one.
Buckle up because we're talking about Alexandr Wang, the founder and CEO of Scale AI.
He's been called like the next Elon Musk, a visionary genius.
But some people say he's just a hype machine.
Yeah, riding the AI wave straight to the bank.
So which is it?
Is Wang truly transforming industries, or is he just, cashing in on the AI gold rush?
Well, to figure that, we got to start by understanding, what is Scale AI even doing?
Right, like what's the big idea here? Why has this company gotten so much attention, so much money? I mean, Wang is only 26.
Yeah, and he was already a billionaire at 24, youngest self-made billionaire in the world.
Okay, so that's a lot of success, a lot of pressure at a really young age.
Yeah, so maybe let's start with Wang's own words about what Scale AI is all about.
All right, so in an interview on the A16Z podcast, Wang described his company as a data foundry.
A data foundry, what does that even mean?
Basically, he's saying that they're providing the fuel for AI advancements.
So, they're the blacksmiths of the AI revolution.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
They're forging the raw materials that other companies need to build their AI, masterpieces.
Yeah, and what Wang argues is that, AI, as amazing as it is still limited by the data that it's trained on.
So to really push AI forward, we need more data, better data.
Right, he calls it frontier data.
I like that, frontier data.
It's data that captures the complexity of the real world, like all the messy human actions and decisions that AI needs to learn from.
I see. So Scale AI is providing this frontier data.
That's the idea, but it's not easy.
Okay, so how are they doing it?
Well, they specialize in something called data annotation.
Data annotation.
It's the process of labeling data so that AI algorithms can understand it.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. So imagine you're trying to train a self-driving car.
Go.
You need millions of images of roads, streets, and everything on them.
Yeah.
But the AI needs to know what it's seeing, right?
I guess so.
So someone has to label every object in those images.
Oh, I see. This is a car, this is a pedestrian, this is a stop sign.
Exactly. That's what Scale AI does.
On a massive scale, I imagine.
Huge scale. They've built a platform called Nucleus to manage all this data.
So it's like a giant library, but instead of books, it's full of labeled data.
Exactly. And AI developers can use this data to train their algorithms.
So Scale AI isn't just labeling data. They're building the infrastructure for accessing and sharing it.
That's right. They want to be the go-to source for AI data.
But isn't that kind of risky? Like Google and Facebook, they already have so much data.
Oh, yeah, tons of it.
And they have the resources to label it themselves. So why would they need Scale AI?
Well, Wang argues that Scale AI is building something different, something more foundational. He wants to create a data layer that everyone can build on, not just a few big companies.
So he's trying to democratize access to AI data.
That's the pitch. He believes it's a more sustainable approach and one that benefits a broader community.
I mean, it's a compelling idea.
And, they've already landed some big partnerships, not just startups either, but companies like Toyota and Honda.
Yeah, even Accenture, that huge consulting firm.
So they're not just talking, they're actually making deals.
And let's not forget the government contracts. Scale AI is working with the Air Force and the Department of Defense.
Right. They even got a $350 million contract to analyze satellite imagery in Ukraine.
Wow. So they're deeply embedded in the world of national security.
Yeah. And that adds a whole other layer of complexity to this whole grifter or gifted question.
Because when you mix AI, big data, and national security, the stakes get pretty high.
Yeah, definitely something we need to explore further.
Okay, so far we have this picture of Wang as this brilliant, ambitious entrepreneur building a company that's powering the AI revolution.
Yeah, working with everyone from Uber to the Pentagon.
But as we know, there's another side to this story.
Yeah, there's a darker side, a more controversial side.
And that's where we're headed next. All right, so we've talked about Wang's vision for Scale AI and their impressive, growth and partnerships.
But now it's time to talk about the elephant in the room, right?
Yeah, we got to address the controversy surrounding Remotasks.
Remotasks, yeah. Scale AI's platform for sourcing data labeling work from all over the globe.
Primarily in the global south, right?
Exactly. And this platform is like the backbone of their business model. It's how they can provide such huge amounts of data so quickly.
But the way they're doing it has raised a lot of ethical questions.
Yeah, there have been reports from sources like the Washington Post and Rest of World about some pretty troubling stuff.
Like workers in the Philippines earning as little as 3 cents per task?
Yeah, and that's just one example. There are concerns about delayed payments, withheld payments.
And a lack of transparency and accountability?
It's like these workers have very few options if they feel like they've been treated unfairly.
Yeah, and there's this fear that it's just a race to the bottom when it comes to wages.
So it's a valid concern. I mean, you have this multi-billion-dollar company backed by some of the biggest names in tech,
And the U.S. government.
relying on a global workforce that often has very little bargaining power.
And it just makes you question, right? Like, is this really progress if it's built on the backs of exploited labor?
It's a tough question, and it's not just about the low wages either.
Yeah, there's the issue of data quality, too.
Right, if people are rushing through tasks just trying to make a few cents.
Are they going to produce the high-quality, accurate data that AI needs?
Exactly. And that's a huge concern, especially when you consider that Scale AI is working with the Department of Defense.
Yeah, analyzing satellite imagery,
hmm
evaluating these large language models.
If the data they're providing is flawed, the consequences could be pretty serious.
So it's a really slippery slope, and it just highlights the need for more transparency, more accountability in the AI industry.
Absolutely. We need to know where this data is coming from, how it's being collected, and who's profiting from it.
Now, Scale AI has responded to these criticisms, saying they pay a living wage.
Yeah, and that they're constantly improving their system based on worker feedback.
But the reports from the workers themselves paint a different picture.
Yeah. And even if we take Scale AI at their word and say, okay, they're paying a living wage,
Is that really enough?
when you're providing data that's being used to train AI systems that could have such a huge impact.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a really complex issue, and it's made even more complicated by the fact that there aren't clear regulations for platforms like Remotasks.
Right. It's this kind of legal gray area, the gig economy, these online labor platforms. It's all pretty new territory for labor laws.
And companies like Scale AI are definitely taking advantage of that.
And it's worth noting that Scale AI has been banning workers who use VPNs.
VPNs.
Yeah, so Rest of World reported that Scale AI bans workers who use VPNs to mask their location.
So they're trying to prevent workers from countries with lower wages from accessing higher paying tasks.
Exactly. They're basically being locked out of opportunities to earn a better income.
It's just so contradictory, right?
Yeah.
On one hand, we have Wang, this brilliant MIT dropout, talking about using AI to build a better future.
Right.
But on the other hand, we have these workers who are just struggling to survive.
And they're being treated like disposable data points in his grand vision.
It's a pretty stark contrast.
It makes you wonder, whose future are we really building here?
Is it a future where a select few, like Wang, benefit from AI while the rest of us are left behind?
It raises some really big questions about the direction of AI and technology in general.
Yeah, is this just the nature of disruption? Like, is this inevitable with a technology that has so much potential?
Or is there another way?
Can we build a future with AI that's more equitable, more just?
I think those are questions we need to be asking ourselves right now.
We can't just blindly accept that technological progress is always good.
Exactly. We need to be critical. We need to demand better from the people who are shaping our future.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit and talk about Wang himself.
Right.
His leadership, his philosophy.
Because to figure out if he's a grifter or gifted,
We need to understand what motivates him.
yeah, what drives him.
And what's interesting is that Wang seems to genuinely believe in the power of AI.
Oh, yeah, he talks about it with a real passion, like he truly believes it can change the world.
In his A16's interview, he talked about how the AI industry is evolving in 3 phases.
Oh, yeah.
And he said that we're currently in phase 2, which is focused on scaling.
Right, making AI bigger, better, faster.
But he said we're moving towards a phase that will be all about this frontier data.
The data that captures the real complexities of human behavior.
He's not just thinking about the present. He's thinking about the future.
And that kind of ambition, that long-term thinking, is part of what makes him so compelling.
And so successful.
But it can also be a double-edged sword.
How so?
Well, when you have that much ambition, that much belief in your own vision,
You can start to lose sight of the ethical implications.
yeah, you can start to justify cutting corners, dismissing criticism as just a lack of understanding.
So is Wang blinded by his own ambition.
It's possible. I mean, he's so focused on achieving his goals that maybe he's not seeing the human cost.
And let's not forget that ambition often goes hand in hand with self-interest.
That's true. Even if he started with good intentions, the desire for success, for wealth, for power can corrupt anyone.
So is he driven by a genuine desire to improve the world?
Or is he just building his own empire?
It's the ultimate question, right? Grifter or gifted?
And it's not one that's easily answered.
But it's a question that we have to keep asking, especially as AI becomes more and more powerful.
Yeah, because the choices that people like Wang are making today are shaping the future for all of us.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. Wang's vision for scale AI, their labor practices, with Remotasks, his ties to the U.S. government.
It's a lot to think about, and I gotta say, I'm still kind of conflicted about this whole thing.
Me too. It's tough to reconcile the image of this young, idealistic entrepreneur with the reality of a company that might be exploiting workers and, profiting from these government contracts that raise all sorts of ethical questions.
Right, and what about that whole thing with TikTok? Remember that Scale AI was briefly partnered with them?
Yeah, that's right. They were going to provide data insights for TikTok, but the deal fell apart pretty quickly.
Yeah, Forbes reported on the partnership, and there was like immediate backlash.
National security experts were like, whoa, hold on. A U.S. defense contractor working with a company linked to the Chinese government.
Not a good look, especially for a company trying to be a major player in national security.
Bill Evanina, the former head of counterintelligence, even called it a bad decision.
Yeah, he said it was bad from a perception standpoint and a security standpoint.
It definitely raises questions about Wang's judgment.
Yeah, like was it just a naive mistake or was it a calculated risk that didn't pay off?
Hard to say for sure. But it makes this whole grifter or gifted question even more complicated.
And it's important to remember that Scale AI isn't the only company doing this data annotation stuff.
Right, they have competitors like Surge AI and Snorkel AI.
And even the big guys like Google and OpenAI are investing heavily in their own data operations.
So what makes Scale AI stand out? How did they get so big, especially with the defense contracts?
Well, they were early to the game and they were really smart about their partnerships.
Like those early deals with Uber and Airbnb.
Exactly. Those contracts proved they could deliver, and then they shifted their focus to the government, specifically the Department of Defense.
And let's not forget, they were involved in Project Maven.
Oh yeah, that controversial AI project for analyzing drone footage.
The one that Google employees protested.
Yeah, it was a big deal. It really brought to light the ethical concerns around using AI for military purposes.
Like on one hand, AI could make warfare more efficient, reduce casualties.
But on the other hand, it could lead to autonomous weapon systems, escalation of conflict, and, the dehumanization of warfare.
It's scary stuff.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder, does Wang even consider these risks? Is he thinking about the potential consequences of the technology he's building?
It's tough to say, but his recent comments about metaprogramming are interesting.
Metaprogramming.
Yeah, he basically thinks that AI will eventually write its own code.
So like automating the work of programmers.
Exactly, which is a pretty bold prediction.
It implies that he sees AI as this incredibly powerful force that's going to reshape the world as we know it.
But it also raises concerns about job displacement and the concentration of wealth and power in the hands of a few.
It's a reminder that technological progress isn't always a good thing.
Yeah, it can create new problems, new inequalities, new ethical dilemmas.
And we as a society need to be ready to deal with those challenges.
We need to demand that the people who are shaping the future of AI do so responsibly.
So after all this back and forth, what's the verdict on Alexandr Wang? Is he a visionary or a grifter?
Honestly, I don't think there's a simple answer. He's a product of his time, driven by ambition, by a belief in the power of technology, and maybe a little bit of naivete.
He embodies both the incredible potential and the inherent risks of the AI revolution.
And I think it's up to each of us to decide where we stand on him, on Scale AI, and on the future of AI in general.
We need to stay informed, stay engaged, and keep asking these tough questions.
Because the choices we make today are shaping the world of tomorrow.
That's right. The future is not set in stone. It's being built right now. And if we want a future that benefits everyone, we need to be thoughtful, critical, and engaged. That's all the time we have for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
We'll see you next time on Grifter or Gifted.